Hey guys, I just wanted to come on and do a book review for a series that I read in November and story of my life. I procrastinated and I'm just now getting around to the review. But it is the Heart of Stone series by, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right, Demelza Carlton. Um, and it's a series that follows three brothers, the Stone brothers. The oldest is Torsten, and he is a master stonemason. And then the next brother is Dunstan, and he is a ship's carpenter. And then the youngest brother is Ben, who is an apprentice to Torsten. However, he's really an artist. Um, Drawing, sketching, painting, sculpting, stonework, all of that. Um, but this is a gargoyle romance series, and it does start in the 1800s, but we end up in modern times. Um, the three brothers become gargoyles, they lose their memory, they wake up in modern times, and we go from there. So the first book in the series is Heart of Stone, and this is kind of the prequel for the other three books, but this one starts in, I think it's the 1800s. I can't really remember if they specify the time frame, but it's back in the day. But basically, Torsten and Ben are hired to build a ruin for a nobleman in the Scottish Highlands. And this nobleman has a daughter named Pamela, who is also an artist. And she and Ben meet one day when Pamela is kind of wandering around the job site to sketch, and she sees Ben, who is sculpting or carving. You don't carve stone. Whatever, sculpting stone, chiseling it. I don't know what the proper terms are here. But he's making a gargoyle statue to go on the ruin that they're building. And yes, I said ruin that they're building. If you read the story, you'll understand. So, but they connect over their artistic endeavors. But of course, he's an apprentice stonemason, so well below her station. But more importantly, her father's trying to marry her off because he has some extensive debts that he needs to settle. And so he's trying to marry her off. But Ben ends up making a promise to Pamela that if she ever needs help or needs him for anything, that, all she has to do is call on him and he will be there for her. So this was a quick read. It's only about 160 pages, and it feels like it abruptly ends. So if it feels like my review of the first book abruptly ends, that's because that's what the first book does. But you do end up getting the rest of the story in later books. So you end up finding out that they were accused of murdering Pamela, and they were then sent to prison for it, all three brothers. They get sent to the colonies in, I don't know, Australia, New Zealand. They get sent to a colony. I don't know which colony it was. Because they had a trade skill, right? The carpentry and the stonemasonry. So they could help, even though they were still prisoners, they could help build the colonies up. And then something happens, and again, the story kind of abruptly ends. They end up being turned into gargoyles through magic, and of course, and then they wake up with no memory of kind of what, all they know is that they're gargoyles and they're meant to protect this certain person. And so the next three books get into each of their stories when they wake up in modern times as gargoyles. So the second book is Broken Chains. And this is Torsten's story for when he wakes up. Okay, so Broken Chains starts from, and I'm gonna butcher these women's names. Um, two of the three I have no idea how to pronounce properly, but I'm gonna go for it. So Katina is a librarian, and so it starts off from her perspective. She is a student who is working on her PhD project in archaeology. And she feels threatened one night and in danger. And that kind of awakens Torsten from his like magical deep slumber. He's basically being called to protect her. And so Broken Chains is their story, kind of about how they fall in love and break the gargoyle curse. Um, so yeah, so that's the first. That I keep saying first book. That's the second book. It's because I don't think of the prequel as the first one. The next book is Broken Bonds, and this is Dunstan's story. And so it's his and Anamon's, and I have no idea how to say her name, but she's a widow. And so they have kind of a different set of circumstances, but again, she feels threatened and in danger one night. And this calls to Dunstan and it awakens him from his deep magical slumber. And so that follows their story. Then the last book is Broken Dreams. And this is one that follows Ben. So Ben's a little different from the other two. You kind of find out that something went wrong with his. They kind of botched the ceremony with him to make him a magical gargoyle. And so he actually has his memory and is just trying to kind of figure out and function and live in the modern time. It's his and Rochelle's stories. Her name I know how to pronounce. But Rochelle is of course his love interest, and just this is their story and how they fall in love and hopefully break the curse. Overall, I give this series 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It was entertaining. It had some good spice. I enjoyed the characters. My only problem with it, the only reason this wasn't a 4 star for me is because the author has another series that's a gargoyle romance series. And I felt like this was kind of the same story. There were little differences. It was just different characters. So that's why I gave this a 3.5 star, but I really enjoyed the series and it is connected to the other series. It's actually their uncle who also wakes up as a gargoyle. It is interconnected, but I kind of felt like it was the same thing. So that's why it got 3.5 stars for me. But yeah, if you've read the series, let me know what you thought about it. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. It is a yes, even though I only gave it 3.5 stars. That's like a C plus. Yay!